you get me talking about Libby Gill, we're going to be here all day.
It's really critical, especially now that we begin to develop leaders at all levels of the organization so that we can all innovate, take risks, bring bold ideas to the table. After what Daily Variety would call a brief stint as an actress, I decided it was time to go behind the camera, behind the scenes, and work on the corporate side of entertainment, which turned out to be a much better fit for me, and where my leadership skills, my ability to command a room, to lead with vision, to articulate a mission to others, to combine the strategy with the execution, which to me is the art of leadership. Those were skills that found a much better place in that world. So that's what I want to talk about today. Some of the skills that you were hearing before about the strategy, the way that you can create a culture of leadership, because honestly, it's no longer with the kind of things your industry and the country, in fact the world, has gone through. It's not enough anymore to just bring out the leadership in yourself. If you are not creating leaders at all levels of your organization, you're just not fulfilling the obligation of the role. It's not what's in the job description, it's what's not in the description that defines you as a leader. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some strategies so that you can create that culture of bold leadership around you. First, by developing your own leadership DNA, who you are, sort of the who of leadership. Secondly, by a process, the how of leadership. And this is a process that I teach, I've taught across the country, in clarifying, simplifying, and executing a bold vision for success, however you define that success. And then finally, pursuing a radical sense of purpose, of having a real definition for what matters to you, to your constituents, to your customers, your clients, your consumers, but also within your community, your organization, even your own family. So those are the areas I want to touch on today. And first, there's an old saying, you may have heard this before, if you're a leader, if you're leading and no one's following, maybe you're just taking a walk. So what you don't want to be is one of those leaders who looks around and discovers there's nobody back there. I started my career as a tap dancing bear, and then I was a talking Christmas tree. I was the hand of Fancy Feast cat food for a couple of years. I was a soap opera actress, and then I decided it was time to get a real job. I started temping through all the different studios in Hollywood. I ended up working as a PR assistant in what was then Norman Lear's company, and in 5 years I had become a vice president overseeing publicity, advertising, and promotion for 5 divisions of Sony's worldwide television group. Right when you begin to contemplate change, isn't that when the universe just throws that curveball right at you? And for me, that was an offer of a promotion within another part of the company, working for a big media mogul named Barry Diller. And I got offered this job, big stress, but it seemed like a really good opportunity. And as we were talking about it, you know, all the wheels were in motion. And so I had my corporate headshot taken, which is what they do in Hollywood, you know, your mugshot. They give to the trade papers, which in my case were Daily Variety and the Hollywood Reporter. And I just kind of went along with the program thinking, well, everybody seems to think this is a good idea, so maybe it is, so we'll kind of go with it. And I got that photo taken. I didn't really think that much about it. And a few days later, I went back into my office. I mean, I had a lovely corner office, and I was sort of feeling guilty that I was beginning to think of it as my little prison. But I went into my office, and there was this envelope on my desk, and it was from the photographer. And I thought, you know, normally that would have gone to the photo department, but, you know, it was there on my desk, didn't think anything of it, you know, opened the envelope and saw that there was a photo sleeve inside, come back from the photographer before, you know, somebody approves it and it goes on to the retoucher. But I just opened it up, pulled that photo out of the sleeve, and saw an 8 by 10 black and white proof of my face with every flaw circled in red grease pencil. And not only that, big lines with arrows over into the margins about how to fix everything. How to brush out the worry lines around my mouth, and how to get rid of the circles, and whiten the red eyes, brighten the dull teeth, fix the gray hair. Now, he didn't say anything about the extra 30 pounds I was carrying at that time, but I would have been very happy for him to brush those out. And I sat there, and I looked at this picture in shock, trying not to cry, and thinking, I am not fooling anyone except me. And I just don't want to be this frumpy, stressed out, miserable woman for another 20 years, or even 10 years, or even the next week. Leaders need to really be very clear about what the objectives for the team and what the mission is for the organization. And once you do that and you really clarify, simplify the path, and execute against measurable milestones, then you're able to hold everybody accountable to their specific piece of that vision. I want to talk a little bit about our own preferences and our own style, because we sometimes become slave to our own thoughts and we forget the rest of the world has their preferences too. Let me show you what I mean. Clasp your hands like this right now. Just cross your hands. Now, look down, see if your left thumb is on top or your right thumb. Okay? Raise your hand if you're a right thumb on top person. Raise your hand high. Okay? Now raise your thumb if you, raise your hand if you're a left thumb on top. We split about 50-50. It really doesn't have anything to do with hand dominance. Okay, now I want you to switch it. Switch it and put that other thumb on top. Does that feel weird? It's really hard to do. Okay, now try this. Cross your arms. Now some people tuck the hand, some people have it on top. Okay, now leave your arm crossed. Look over at your neighbor. See if they're like you, if they're different from you. Okay. Now, all right, enough. Okay, here's my point. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to leave your arms crossed. I cross mine now with my left arm on top because I just got engaged, yes, at age 55. Thank you. And I'm so tickled that, you know, I've just got to put my arm on top. Anyway, so leave your arms crossed, but nod your head. If you are a right hand on top, nod your head. Okay, now, those of you who are left hand on top, nod your head. Okay, now, here's what's really interesting. Those of you with the left arm on top, congratulations, because you have the gene for leadership ability. You have a very strong connection. Those of you with the right arm, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There are many other things you can't know. I made that up, of course. Okay. You're scientists. I can't outsmart you. All right. These are preferences. These are preferences that we choose early in life, and they just don't waver too much. But my point is, you're all great leaders. Definitely. My point is that our preferences are so strong. We become so wedded to them, it's difficult to change. And the interesting thing is everybody else's preferences are just that strong, and they're just as resistant to change. They don't want to switch it around either. And to be a leader, you've got to recognize that you've got a room full of people with different strengths, weaknesses, preferences that you've got to meld together into that gumbo.
Libby Gill is one of those people who gets it.
When you can share the credit and the success with your team, that's what sets those great leaders apart.